Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome back to the dceu Daily. Remember, you can follow me, tag me and speak to me over on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. So yesterday I had a knock on the door and this finally came to me. So I was spending all day on the bonus features of Wonder Woman 84. This slipped out, which really excited me, by the way, because it reminded me in August, we've got James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, a film I'm really looking forward to, and Matt Reeves' The Batman. Next year, it's the first DCEU movie of 2022, unless the dates change. We're heading for a March movie. This could be the most successful March movie of all time, which is really exciting. So anyway, right, so as I say, I got this yesterday, Wonder Woman 1984, and I watched the bonus features. Some of it was really exciting. I loved watching young Lily Aspel and her enthusiasm and her talent seeping through. And she is, look, she may be a better Diana than Gal Gadot. I'm saying that, look, you can cancel me if you like, but she's sensational. She should have her own young Diana TV show on HBO Max or something. She is brilliant. But it was interesting because some of the bonus features I found really nauseating, which, unfortunately, when you get to my age and the modern speak these days, it does kind of trigger you sometimes. But one of the things I found are kind of ironic and hypocritical and full of hypocrisy from Patty Jenkins was her moral of this story, which is basically it's okay to have aspirations and dreams, but not to overreach and not to be greedy and not to put your own kind of thoughts and wishes in front of other people's safety and, you know, caring about everyone. It's a good moral. Here's the problem. Where it's coming from is my problem, that we're talking about Hollywood. These people have fucking got mansions, multiple mansions in Beverly Hills, and they're talking to us, working class people without a pot to piss in, about greed and overreaching. You're the ones who keep on making movies. You're the ones who want more and more money and more say on what you do. If anyone's overreaching, it's you. Anyway, that's what I've got to say about that. Wonder Woman 84 is a perfectly good, solid, acceptable comic book movie. I still don't think it's anywhere near the quality of Wonder Woman 2017. But she was trying to tell a story. She told her story. It hit with some people and it missed with others. Unfortunately, that is the tale of the DCEU, but still an enjoyable watch. So go watch it if you want to watch it. So our main headline today, and we're going to be deep diving into it, is that Lucy Liu has been cast as Calypso. Is it Calypso? Aren't Calypso's those ice thingies, right? Anyway, I think it's Calypso. Anyway, I don't know how you say it. But she's playing Calypso, one of the gods in Shazam, Fury of the Gods, one of the villains. Can I just say something? How are we supposed to root for Shazam when Lucy Liu is going to be one of the villains? I mean, I always rooted for the villains anyway. I mean, even when Michael Shannon's General Zod gets a punching in Man of Steel, I'm going, yeah! And I'm going, oh my God, I'm sorry, Superman, I do love you, 50 Hail Marys, you know? So it's really exciting. So after that, we'll be talking about Ray Fisher, because if Ray Fisher isn't doing a tell-all article to someone in some publication, then I'm trying to click my heels and say there's no place like home. So we'll be looking at that as well. I'll be ranting about HBO Max coming out bragging that The Nevers is their most successful launch in the short history of the streaming platform. I'll be ranting about that a bit later on as well. So should we get started? Let's do this. Lucy Liu joins Helen Mirren in Shazam sequel. Yeah, Helen Mirren as well. I'm rooting for Helen Mirren, mate. I'm rooting for Lucy Liu. Not Shazam and his little family, right? I'm joking. But I will be rooting for Lucy Liu and Helen Mirren. I just want you to know that. So, Lucy Liu has spent the last several years in television with such shows as Why Women Kill and Elementary. Yes, she plays Watson. And actually, shockingly, it's a really good series and it worked really well. Very controversial series because it came out a few years after Stephen Moffat's Sherlock, which is an amazing kind of reimagination of the Sherlock universe, but Elementary is really good. Johnny Lee Miller, also a British actor, by the way. Brilliant guy. Always liked Johnny. Go watch Eli Stone. What a great series that was, by the way. Anyway, so basically, Why Women Kill in Elementary is heading to the big screen, joining the cast of New Line's big-budget DC movie, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. The Shazam sequel once again stars Zachary Levi as the adult version of teenager Billy Batson, a reprising Asher Angel who transforms into a superhero. David F. Sandberg is back as director, quite right too. Plot details of the Henry Gayden script are being kept in a cave off a subway tunnel, but New Line announced that Lou will play a villainess named Calypso. The character is the second daughter of Atlas, one of the titans of ancient Greece and one of the A's in Shazam, acronym of ancient gods and heroes. The character is also the sister to Hespera, the villain character that is being played by the already cast Helen Mirren. Also, the call sheet is newcomer Rachel Zegler. Oh, the star of Steven Spielberg's upcoming West Side Story. Yes, Rachel has a lot to say on Twitter about a lot of things. Yes, I'm afraid she's one of those. So I don't want to get blocked by her. I'm going to try and bite my tongue. But she's a good actor. So, yeah, I'm glad look, this is shaping up to be a great cast. So that's that. So what do I think of this? I think it's great. Lucy Liu is a wonderful bag of energy. Sorry to call you a bag, Lucy. I think you're amazing. I think she's awesome, and I think it's more great casting. And when we look at the casting of this film, now, one of the questions, moving away from that big headline, which is awesome, is Dr. Savannah going to reprise his role? I think he will. Now, we haven't been told he's part of the cast, but I think we'll see him maybe in a cameo or in a smaller kind of a role. But I think he was amazing in the first movie. I thought he's a great villain, by the way, and really look, a lot of people moan these days that there's always some kind of justification for villains being villains. But listen, you need that motivation. I'm sorry. You can't just have villains going, I'm going to destroy you. I want world domination. You can't do that, right? So you can complain as much as you fucking want. It makes sense to go at these villains in a way where they've got motivations. Because one of the big criticisms when I was growing up with all these Bond villains, and I love the old Bond movies and the movies I grew up with, they didn't really have motivation. Lex Luthor in Superman the movie doesn't really have this great backstory or anything. Basically, he's a villain. He lives underground. He's not the Lex Luthor we know of nowadays. He's not a millionaire or anything. But he basically buys up beachfront property and he wants to take over the world by doing that. So it's a piss-poor plot. Gene Hackman's a great Lex. I love Superman the movie, but it's a piss-poor motivation for a villain. So he's just literally doing bad stuff for the hell of it. But in truth, sometimes villains are just bad. But let's be honest about it in real life. Everyone has their motivations. Everyone has backstories, and it's more interesting. Look at what they did with Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur Fleck. Great motivations there. So, yes, I think the DCEU has a great catalogue of villains, and I think Dr. Savannah is one of them, by the way. But when I look at the villains, Black Mask, another great villain. General Zod, another great villain. Personally love Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. Not the guy I would have chosen, not the direction I would have gone in as a writer, but certainly he works as a kind of new 52-ish Lex Luthor. I've mentioned this before. The DCEU, and especially Snyder and Jeff Johns, actually probably one of the things they were in line with, one of the few things that they really kind of like the New 52. I don't know why. But there you go. New 52 is a bit like the Snyderverse in the DCEU. It's very polarizing. Some people think it's amazing. There are some New 52 apologists out there. I wouldn't apologize for anything that you like if you like it. I love the Supergirl movie starring Helen Slater. I'm never going to fucking apologize for it. I think it wasn't a success because people didn't kind of go and watch female-led films back then. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing to admit, but I think that was more of the reason. I think the Supergirl movie is brilliant. And I say that all the time because I fucking love it. So I think it's really, really good news that Lucy Liu has been cast as Calypso. And I'm just terribly excited about all of this, if I'm honest. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do with this movie. We're going to have to wait till 2023, but I think it's going to be worth the wait. So get really excited if you're a fan of the DC Snyderverse, because Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut will be available on all platforms digitally, so you can just buy it and watch it on Amazon Prime or whatever, iTunes or whatever, from, I think it's the 22nd or the 24th of April. I could be wrong about that. Go and check the information out for that. And physically, you will be able to buy it on DVD, Blu-ray, 4K as well from the 27th of May. So I'm a bit frustrated because I still have to fucking wait. This film should have been available to keep for a while. In India, they were buying it and keeping it on the 18th of March. It's freaking ridiculous. Here in Cyprus, I still haven't been able, I don't want to say too much, but let's just say, unless you've got a multi-channel deal out here, you don't have official access to Zack Snyder's Justice League. And that's really, really pissed me off. Anyway, Justice League Score coming as box set exclusive. Look at this. Look at this. This is a massive box set, a physical box set for Junkie XL's Tom Hokenberg's soundtrack of Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. And it's going to be available for us to keep in that form, a physical copy. Can't wait. Mondo will release nearly 4 hours of Tom Hokenberg's music across 7 discs. And if I can't buy this on Amazon Shopping, we are going to have an issue. It's always the way that everyone apart from America has trouble grabbing hold of this stuff immediately, don't they? Zack Snyder's Justice League was a larger-than-life project many years in the making. Now, the music behind the HBO Max film is getting honoured with a physical release from Mondo, the Austin-based company. The limited edition box set brings Tom Hokenberg's nearly 4-hour score to 780 gram vinyl discs. Wow, vinyl discs! Well, I don't have a bloody vinyl player. Hokenberg, also known as Junkie XL, was scoring Justice League when filmmaker Zack Snyder was working on his theatrical version, but after Snyder departed in May 2017 and was replaced by Joss Whedon, Hokenberg in turn was replaced by composer Danny Elfman. After years of fan campaigning, Snyder was approached in November 2019 about restoring his vision for HBO Max, and not long after, he and producer Deborah Snyder asked Hokenberg if he could return as well. It was a challenge as the composer had to complete nearly 4 hours of music on a compressed time frame to make the release date, but in the end, he made it happen, and it doesn't seem like a soundtrack that's been rushed. It's a beautiful soundtrack. In fact, it's one of the best superhero soundtracks out there, if I may be so bold. The filmmaking story behind Zack Snyder's return to his DC Comics juggernaut is well known at this point, but not enough time has been spent on the journey of the film's once shelved score, says Mo Shafiq Mondo, creative director of music. The incredible composer behind one of the last decade's biggest filmmaking triumphs, Mad Max Fury Road, Tom Hokenberg, joined the sadly far too large club of composers across filmmaking history to have their blockbuster scores replaced. But the big budget redemption arc of Zack Snyder's original vision for Justice League presented Hokenberg with the opportunity to build upon what he had started many years ago. With new skills and tools, this time with no other cook in the kitchen but his director and friend. In addition to Justice League and Fury Road, Hokenberg is known for his work on Snyder's Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice and the filmmaker's upcoming Army of the Dead. His other scores include Godzilla vs Kong, Deadpool, and Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, look, you should know by now if you're a follower of me on Twitter or here. And go and watch his music videos. He does these tutorials. He's awesome. And he's been doing some about his Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut scores as well. I forgot what he calls them, but they're great. So big fan of Tom's. I'm really happy he got to do this. I know he's really proud of the score. I'm really proud of the score, but I don't have a vinyl player. I could buy it as a collection, I suppose. But can we get it on CD? I wasn't paying attention when I was reading the article. I can't remember. Hopefully we can get it on CD as well. But I do have it on Spotify, so that's cool. But I would like to support Zack Snyder's Justice League and show Warner Media and HBO Max that there is, there's good money-making reasons to restore the Snyderverse. As I said earlier, it's not a week in geekdom if Ray Fisher isn't telling all to some publication, and this time he's been talking to Empire, and Screen Rant are discussing that very thing. This is by Graham Gutman of Screen Rant. Ray Fisher criticises WB's handling of Justice League director change. Ray Fisher says he was upset by Warner Bros.' lack of transparency when it came to the Justice League reshoots and director Joss Whedon's involvement. Ray Fisher says that Warner Bros.' lack of transparency about the Justice League reshoots and Whedon's involvement in them was a point of discord for him. The Snyder Cut release has prompted a re-examination and a re-examination and more of a re-examination of what happened during the original reshoots for the film after Zack Snyder left during post-production and Joss Whedon was brought in to take over what started as Snyder's passion project quickly became a film beset by studio influence and executives hoping to match up with their greatest competitor. For fans and critics, Justice League did not live up to the hype and was clear to many that Snyder's original vision and Whedon's flair were mashed together. In a Frankenstein-like film, Fisher has also spoken up about the treatment he and other members of the cast faced from Whedon during these reshoots, and studios' alleged attempt to cover it up. From the conflicting reports received from the stars of the film and the studio itself, it's clear there is a disconnect that led to the behind-the-scenes turmoil that continues to play out. For example, Ray coming out talking about we don't want another angry black man, and then, Jeff Johns and co are saying what we mean is we don't want the stereotype of an angry black man. So Ray's making it out to sound racist, but what they're saying is the opposite of racist. We don't want you to be stereotyped, Ray, as an angry black man. And they were trying to do a more lighter movie. That's where they were coming from. So, in fact, there was no racism going on here. And we all know that. Although, saying that, all the cutting out of the POC characters is very, very suspicious that they wanted to do cuts. They only wanted to film 2 hours or under. And they thought, oh, we'll just cut out the POC characters. That is somewhat racially charged, isn't it? So I will say that much. But I do think Ray can be, let's say, a little bit economical with the way he drives a conversation. I would say that. This turmoil seems to go back to when the studio brought Whedon on board with the cyborg actor telling Empire magazine that Warner Brothers' lack of transparency when it came to the switch of directors was a major point of contention for him. Fisher says that the studio insisted Whedon was merely coming in to complete Snyder's vision, not put his stamp on the film. Still, when it became clear that wasn't the case, Fisher wondered why the studio was adamant that they were still honouring Snyder's original intentions for the film. They were lying. They weren't going to tell the audience the truth, the consumer the truth, that they were, when they were repackaging the movie. All hell would have broken loose, as it did eventually. Ultimately, this type of transparency could have gone a long way in shoring up support from the cast, says Fisher. You wouldn't have got support, Ray. We'll read what he's got to say in a minute, but you wouldn't have been supportive, Ray. You think, you look up to Zack Snyder like a god. Quite right, too. If they told you that Joss Whedon was reshooting and rewriting the movie, I don't think you would have been more on board. But here's the thing, Ray. Whatever they did, right, you should have been more on board. That's part of your job. Now, some of the stuff Whedon was doing was outrageous, and you're right to be outraged by that. But at the end of the day, Ray, it doesn't matter who takes over. It doesn't matter if it's Jack the Ripper. It doesn't matter. Your job is to do what's on the script. Your job is to, do as you're told, basically. As long as, you're not being asked to do things that are kind of against the laws of nature or decency, then you should get with the program whether you like it or not, as actors have been doing for the past 100 years. Transparency would have gone a long way if they had said to us, hey, we don't like Zack's movie, we want to shift gears completely and we need you guys to buckle down. But they were trying to hold on to this narrative of doing it for Zack and maintaining his vision, all the while completely not doing that. But Ray, you wouldn't have been good with that. You still would have been pissed off. You would have been pushing against that. You know that, and I know that. Are you saying then, because you're the one who says you're here for Zack, you're loyal to Zack, you're saying you would have been fine with them saying, we don't like Zack's movie, we're going another direction. You would have said, that's fine. Come on, Justice League. Let's do this. This is going to be awesome. No, you would have been pissed off, Ray. So really, this is absolute bullshit, and I'm sorry, my friend. Warner Brothers' insistence that they were following Snyder's original plan turned out to be false when the original film was released, and it was clearly out of tune with movies that had come before. In Batman v Superman may have been criticised for its dark tone, but there was a consistency there that Justice League was sorely lacking. Now that the Snyder Cut is out, it's even more apparent that the version of the film released in theatres was a colossal misstep. You think? You think? Warner Brothers is trying to rectify that by moving on from the Snyderverse and the Justice League controversy. Still, a pattern of lack of transparency and their responses to Fisher's comments illustrate that there may still be a disconnect between the studio and talent. Justice League could very well be Fisher's last appearance as Cyborg in the DCEU, something that the actor said would be worth it as long as he brought to light his experiences while working on the film. Now, what's interesting about this is what he says on another article from Screen Rant, but where basically we know he's already said he was willing to sacrifice his career for accountability over entertainment. Well, let's continue this conversation and let's see how he kind of backtracks on that. Ray Fisher still optimistic Cyborg could appear in Flash, movie by Rachel Labonte of Screen Rant. Ray Fisher is still hopeful his character Cyborg will appear in The Flash, saying it will be a bummer if he couldn't find a way, if they couldn't find a way to make it work. Remember, this is the guy who said he was willing to sacrifice his whole career for accountability over entertainment. Despite his ongoing feud with Warner Bros., Ray Fisher is still hopeful his DCEU character Cyborg will appear in The Flash. Recent months have seen Fisher, who has appeared in both Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice and Justice League as Cyborg, engage in a public battle with Warner Bros. Over what went down on the set of Justice League's reshoot. Fisher has alleged reshoots director Joss Whedon acted unprofessionally and abusively, and that he was enabled by those within DC films like Jeff Johns and John Berg. This led to an internal investigation, though the remedial action taken afterwards has yet to satisfy Fisher. There were once plans for Fisher's Cyborg to appear in the future of the DCEU films, but right now things are very much uncertain. Aside from a solo Cyborg film, the character was slated to appear in a long-awaited Flash movie starring Ezra Miller. Fisher was certainly interested in an appearance, but his battle with Warner Bros. Seemingly put an end to it. In January, it was reported Cyborg had been written out of The Flash, something Fisher himself then confirmed. Nevertheless, the actor is still holding out some hope for a resolution for The Flash. While talking to Empire, Fisher spoke of Flash director Andy Muschietti and the conversations they once had about the film. It was then that Fisher shared his hopes that things can work out. Andy seems to have his head on straight and understand these characters by making it about the relationship more than just a display of superpowers. Yes, this is what I think. This is what I like about Andy as well, and he did it great with the It Chapter 1 as well. This should be about the continuing the relationship of Cyborg and Flash, either from Justice League or Zack Snyder's Justice League, because I think they kind of hit it off in both those movies. If I am again to be so bold, I think we saw maybe more of a friendship between those two characters in Justice League, which is what's canon now anyway. Crazy, but yeah, so I think that's got to be focused on. But let's also not forget that this is The Flash's movie. It's not about Cyborg, but I want Ray to settle his differences and be a part of this film. Nothing would make me more happier. We were on the same page about that. And it'll be a bummer if there is no way to resolve the issue. Fisher previously stated there hasn't been a draft of The Flash that did not include Cyborg in some capacity. If that remains the case, then the film will need to do some major restructuring to erase Fisher's role. It would be a shame to lose out on having Cyborg suit up once more alongside The Flash, especially since he's hardly gotten his time to shine in the DCEU. Fisher's optimism will certainly give fans some hope. At the same time, there are numerous obstacles, you think, standing in his way. For one thing, Fisher has repeatedly stated he will not star in a film produced by current DC Films president Walter Hamada. For another, The Flash is set to begin filming fairly soon. So if the matter hasn't been resolved yet, it seems unlikely that it ever will be. As Fisher put it, it would be a bummer if this couldn't be worked out. But his fight with Warner Brothers has reached new heights in recent weeks. Fisher is determined to see accountability in the entertainment industry, which is a noble goal. Hopefully it won't prevent him from appearing in The Flash, but for now, Cyborg remains separate from the 2022 film. As Rachel herself just said, he said he would never work for any production involving Walter Hamada. And this is why we've got to be calm and careful when we speak, Ray. How are we going to sort this out, mate? How? I want you in this movie. I want you to get your own Cyborg movie, whether it's with Zack over on the Zack Snyder's Elseworld universe, as I'm calling it now, as we all should be calling it now, as far as I'm concerned. Bit of a dictator, but anyway. But how are we going to do this when you said you came out publicly to multiple publications, said you would not. You said it on Twitter in your own account that you would not work for under any production under Walter Hamada. So you need to call Walter Hamada and say, is there a chance that I could still be in this movie? You know, I stand by my words, but I think it's right that Cyborg's in this movie. Maybe you can sort something out. I doubt it, but it's worth a try. Because, Ray, what you should be thinking about now, and Walter Hamada and everyone else at WB Pictures and at Warner Media in general, is think about these DC characters. Think about Cyborg and think about the fans of Cyborg and of you, Ray. Do it for them, right? Accountability over entertainment, it's great and everything, but we are really here for these movies and these characters, Ray, and not for the personalities behind the scenes. So I think you lot need to start remembering that. Nearly 200k tweets for Make the Backflip movie, right? And here's a little good article by Adrian Tyler of Screen Rant, why Affleck's restored Batman movie wouldn't ruin Robert Pattinson's reboot. If Ben Affleck's cancelled Batman movie was to happen, it wouldn't affect Robert Pattinson's reboot. Here's why and how it would fit into this universe. Ben Affleck's Batman movie wouldn't interfere with Robert Pattinson's version of the character, and they would actually be beneficial to the DC Films multiverse. Batman has had an interesting history on the big screen, with both very successful movies and others that were heavily criticised for either not getting the character's essence right or simply for their bad execution. Following the success of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, the DC Extended Universe brought its version of Batman in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, with Ben Affleck playing Bruce Wayne. Although the movie wasn't well received by critics who pointed out its tone and screenplay as some of its weakest points, Affleck's performance as Batman was praised, which allowed him to reprise the role in other projects from the DCEU. Affleck returned in Suicide Squad, though in a minor role, and later in Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League. And his performance in the latter has reignited interest in his unmade solo Batman movie. Affleck was set to direct and star in a Batman movie set within the DCEU. But after a couple of problems and this universe going through big changes, the project was cancelled and instead Warner Bros. Focused on a reboot with Matt Reeves as director and Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne. After Make the Backflip movie trended on Twitter as fans campaigning for the aforementioned unmade Affleck Batman movie to happen, especially now that the famous Snyder Cut finally saw the light, many questions arose about how this version of the Caped Crusader could fit in. DC's multiverse now could fit in DC's multiverse now. That there's also Pattinson's Batman coming up. Details about the plot of Affleck's The Batman have been gradually revealed, such as the main antagonist being Deathstroke, Joe Manganiello. But the biggest one has been how the story was going to take place in Arkham Asylum, and that would have only been possible with Affleck's version of the character. The DCEU skipped Batman's origin story and went straight to introducing Affleck's character. This was a mistake, by the way, in my opinion. So, where are we? Yeah, Affleck's character. As an already experienced vigilante, as such, this Batman has already come across different villains, even if that happened off screen, which makes a story set in Arkham Asylum possible. Pattinson's version, on the other hand, is a young Bruce Wayne in his second year fighting crime in Gotham, meaning he still has a lot to learn and a lot of characters to meet. Even if in his first movie he will come across Selena Kyle, Zoe Kravitz, Penguin, Colin Farrell, and the Riddler, Paul Dano. Even if Reeves, the Batman, gets sequels, it's unlikely that this younger Batman will continue long enough for him to be as experienced as Affleck's and thus will be able to face all those villains locked up in Arkham. And that simple but very important detail is what makes it possible for both versions to exist in DC Films' multiverse without one affecting the other. The multiverse in DC's universe also makes it possible for different versions of one character to exist, which is already happening with Affleck, Pattinson and Michael Keaton, who is set to return in The Flash. After playing the Caped Crusader in Tim Burton's Batman and Batman Returns, a Batfleck solo movie wouldn't affect Pattinson's reboot at all, simply because they're different Batmans, in different timelines and different points in their lives, so they can coexist without a problem. It's going to be interesting, isn't it, how this multiverse strategy works. I've always been very excited about it. My concern, and I think everyone's concern with it, is not confusing the normie too much. And what you've got to do there is do it gradually. One of the few good things about Arrowverse actually is they didn't start the multiverse till later down the line. So we had, a few seasons of Flash, a few seasons of Arrow. Then slowly, I think with Flash, the multiverse was introduced, but explained in a really simplistic way. And if you're going to do it, especially in Flashpoint, if that's when you're going to launch it, which is what's going to happen, they need to talk to the audience like they're children. Because as many people just watch these films because they're there, and people like to watch movies. Not necessarily big comic book readers might not understand what the multiverse means, and explain and educate very slowly why there's multiple versions of these characters. So I agree with this article. There's no reason why we can't get a Batfleck movie. It sounds terrific just to think that we could have long drawn-out scenes in Arkham Asylum that Deathstroke destroys Bruce Wayne's life and maybe kills Jeremy Irons' Alfred. This is a great script. These are great ideas. And I'm desperate to see it. And I know, so are you. So make the Affleck movie. Make the Batfleck movie now, damn it. One of my favourite pieces of casting in recent DCEU history is the Black Adam casting of Sarah, how do you say her name? Shahi. She's brilliant. She's done so many great roles. She's full of sass. She's full of personality, strength, and she's just amazing. And I'm so happy that The Rock and his team cast her in this movie. They certainly know what they're doing in terms of casting. So, Black Adam actor, a name reveal may confirm DC hero ISIS by Rachel Labonte again of Screen Rant. The reveal that Sarah Shahi is playing Adriana Tomaz in Black Adam appears to hint that DC hero ISIS could have a role in the long-awaited film. The reveal of Sarah Shahi's Black Adam character might confirm the DC hero Iris or ISIS? Don't you mean ISIS? Anyway, now I'm bloody confused. Anyway, will appear in the film. Dwayne Johnson is poised to play Black Adam for the DCEU, a role he's been officially attached to since 2014. Black Adam, which was recently rescheduled for July 2022, will mark his debut in the franchise, directed by, how do you say that name? Is it Joan Collet Serra? I think that's how you say his name. That's the director anyway. So I think he has worked with The Rock before. The film will tell the supervillain turned anti-hero's origin story. Additionally, it will feature the big screen debut of the Justice Society of America. How exactly they will collide with Black Adam remains to be seen. Black Adam has been in the works for years, but it has suffered more than a few setbacks. A great deal of progress was made in 2020, but the coronavirus pandemic forced the start. I'm disappointed with this article, actually. I thought we'd actually going to talk about Sarah's character and the idea of ISIS rather than this historical bullshit. But the coronavirus pandemic forced the start of filming to be delayed. Luckily, that period of waiting has finally come to an end as Black Adam began filming only days ago. Johnson confirmed the news on social media along with his excitement at finally playing the DC character. He'll be joined by the likes of Pierce Brosnan, Dr. Fate, Aldis Hodge, Hawkman and Shahi, whose role up until now has remained a mystery. On social media, Shahi posted she was finally starting work on Black Adam. Having first been cast a year ago, she shared her appreciation at getting the chance to play this role and even revealed the name of her character, very proud to present my fellow Middle Eastern brothers and sisters as Adriana. Wow! Shahi wrote DC fans will recognise the name Adriana and associate it with Adriana Tomaz. That's right, Black Adam's wife. Yes! And the hero ISIS, you can see Shahi's full post down below. I've got to follow her. I don't think she's on. I think she's on Instagram. Today's my first day filming Black Adam. I was cast in this role a year ago. I have had ups and downs, lefts and rights. They all led me here. Very proud to represent my fellow Middle Eastern brothers and sisters as Adriana. Let's continue to lift each other up as we tell each other's stories. Yep, human stories, connecting stories we all have inside of us. I think that's a great post. By the way, I love her. I think she's amazing. I think Sarah's awesome. So I've watched lots of her stuff in the past. She's a really talented lady, which is cool. Adriana has long been rumoured to be a part of Black Adam, so it isn't too surprising that Shahi is actually playing her. However, her role as Adriana seemingly also confirms the film will feature Isis. They said Isis this time, not Iris. Thank you. In the comics, Adriana possesses the amulet of Isis, which bestows her with the powers of the goddess. It would make sense for Black Adam to show Adriana in her superpowered form. Yes, perhaps suiting up alongside her husband for an epic battle. Of course, there are bound to be some changes in how Black Adam depicts Adriana. For one thing, superhero movies these days are always putting some new spins on characters. For another, Shahi's initial casting described her character as a university professor and freedom fighter leading the resistance in Karhag. Perhaps Black Adam's Adriana Isis has been separated from Adam and part of the story will feature their reunion. Sounds like a good idea. Right now, the film's plot is still being kept under wraps, so everything is speculation and still come next year, audiences just might meet the goddess Isis on the big screen. I hope so. Listen, exciting project. 4 DCEU movies. I can't complain. You shouldn't be complaining. Of course we fight to restore the Snyderverse, to restore Zack Snyder's Elseworld. Of course. But just because I'm fighting for that, it doesn't mean I'm going to come in here and boycott the Central Universe. And anyone who wants me to, I'm afraid, you may need to go and look for another YouTube. But Chris Wong Svensson, someone like that. Passionate Snyder bro, right? Passionate. Great guy, great lad. Go and watch his videos. Always talking about the Central Universe as well. And quite right too, because he started his DC live action journey long before Zack Snyder was even thought of. And that's okay. We can love everything, or one thing and not the other, as long as we don't dictate to others what they love and what they discuss as well. So Joss Whedon's The Nevers premiered last night, on the night before, or whenever on HBO Max. Yesterday, one of the executives of the company and studio, Casey Bloys, came out celebrating and telling us the exact figures of what the premiere did, but bragging that Joss Whedon's The Nevers, we'll call it, because it is Joss Whedon's, even though he stepped away from it, yeah. Whatever you say, Casey and HBO Max and Warner Media, right? Anyway, he was bragging. It's the most successful premiere in the short history of the streamer. HBO Max, right? Telling us exact figures, over 1 million, 2 million viewers, whatever it was. Amazing. For over a month now, Casey, we, the Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut fans, have been begging you for the figures of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Nothing. No response, no reply. You buried those figures because they're so freaking good. But to prove a point, you released your viewing figures for Joss Whedon's The Nevers to prove a point. Joss Whedon is a robust, toxic creative. And we were told by one actor from Buffy that he wasn't even allowed to be on his own with a child actress. Any decent industry, any decent company, any decent people would have got rid of that show out of decency. But you don't have any decency, do you, Casey? And HBO Max and Warner Media? No. You still want to make this very successful. I haven't seen it, but apparently it's actually quite good. I accept that. And that's great. Sounds awesome and amazing. And it looks like it's going to be successful and you're going to want more. And I think the show has its own showrunner and everything. So even though Whedon is part of the creative process, he won't be doing any more from when he walked away, if he actually did walk away. Obviously, it's his name on it. He probably created it, or it's based on some book and he adapted it. But I think they do have a showrunner, or he's being replaced. Will it be as good when this showrunner takes over as well? That's something else. But I do think it's utterly disgusting that we've been begging for the numbers, the ratings, how the Justice League movie has done. Nothing. You're burying these figures because you know they're good. And this worries me, everyone. These are the people we think are on our side. How are we going to restore the Snyderverse if they're burying the numbers and don't want us to know how good it is? It's like they never wanted to restore the Snyderverse in the first place. This was just an easy way to launch HBO Max, and they used us. Used us. We're going to keep on fighting. We're going to keep on making sure they know how much money they can make from us, but it really is looking like an uphill struggle to restore the Snyderverse. Now it's time to tell Scott Edwards my favourite 4 MCU movies. Now, I know, Scott, you're putting a lot of requests out there. Unfortunately, I can't do them all, so I've just handpicked one. I know you found another Calypso article, but we've read a few and we don't want to bore people about Calypso. So I decided to choose this segment as the final part of today's DCEU Daily, so I hope you're pleased with that. By the way, we can't please everyone, can we? Anyway, so I'm going to give you my favourite 4 MCU movies. So we're going to go at first with this one. Now, this is Thor Ragnarok. Now, Thor Ragnarok, a lot of people hate the other 2 Thor movies. I think they're actually okay. They're not the best thing ever. I actually think the first film is pretty good and pretty solid, and I really enjoyed it. Now, the second film isn't the best thing ever either, but I actually thought it was an okay movie. But anyway, Thor Ragnarok is brilliant. Now, I love Chris as Thor. I think he's amazing. I like him. I don't have an issue with him. But I think, let's be honest, why was this film so successful? Why did people love this film? And we have to admit, it's the guy on the top, the Hulk. The reason we all love Thor Ragnarok is because the fucking Hulk talks in it. He's fucking awesome. And this is the appeal of the MCU, because Feige does things that please people. That's the thing. Now, you can't please everyone all of the time. He's done things to piss people off. Of course he has, right? But I think one of the things I noticed, the guy who plays Bucky was talking in an interview to Collider, and he was saying, they were asking him, is there any plans for Falcon and the Winter Soldier series? So he goes, no, but listen, I would do anything that Kevin Feige asked me to do. And if this is the end, that's cool too. And this is the relationship that Feige has with his actors. They trust him. They believe in him. Everyone believes in Feige, and they believe in Feige for a reason, because everyone is being serviced. The fans, the actors. I wouldn't be surprised if most of these people are Marvel fans already as well. But listen, it's amazing. Look, this film, right, isn't about great, deep, dark tones or stories. This film is pure fucking entertainment. You have Loki in it. You have Thor in it. You've got Tessa Thompson's character in it as well. And I think she's pretty awesome in this film as well. And Kate Blanchett's villain is amazing. But for me, the star of this show is the Hulk. And it's a bit like what they were originally going to do with Cyborg in the Flash movie. You know, they were going to be together. They were going to spend some time together. And it was going to be very similar, I feel, as this was, right? With the Hulk and Thor together. Because they do have a bit of a love-hate relationship in comedic terms in Marvel Comics. And we kind of saw that displayed in Joss Whedon's first Avengers movie in such a fabulous way. When they're both standing there and the Hulk goes, boof. It's one of the most hilarious fucking moments ever. So sometimes it's good to make people laugh in films, but I don't think it's a necessity. And if there are no laughs there, the film's bad. No, I'm not saying that. But as I say, this film, Scott, is pure entertainment. But the highlight of this film is the Hulk. He is amazing. Now, I don't think Ruffalo's Banner is anywhere near of the quality and level of Ed Norton's Banner. I think The Incredible Hulk, I should have put it, well, I'm not saying I should have put it in my top 4. It's probably one of my 5th favourite movies from the MCU. The Incredible Hulk movie starring Ed Norton is quite a good film, and I really like it. I actually like the original Hulk movie as well. And I forgot the director's name now, but I really respect the director. And I think he was really thinking, that's a bit like Batman versus Superman, that movie, isn't it? It's so out there, it's so different, people wouldn't accept it. But there is a small group of people who love that first Hulk movie, and I'm one of them. Nick Nolte played Bruce Banner's father. He was David Banner, wasn't he? So, yeah, I like that movie. But, yes, this is brilliant. This is one of my favourite live-action depictions of the Hulk. But the whole film is just full of a good time at the movies. And sometimes that's a good thing, right? It doesn't have to be one thing or the other. But this time, watching this film, I got such enjoyment out of watching it. So anyway, what's my next one? So we're going to go Captain America. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, not Civil War. Look, everyone loves this movie. I don't know if it's my favourite MCU movie, but I was genuinely shocked when they made this movie. I really was, because I didn't expect it to be so dark. And Scarlett Johansson's in it. Robert Redford is the main villain. Nick Fury plays a big role in this film as well, doesn't he? So, but this is about Captain America realizing that Bucky is still alive and he's the Winter Soldier and he has to fight him. And I just love that relationship where he can still see his friend. He's got to fight him, but he's also struggling to bring him back because he's his friend. Because don't forget, and we'll talk about, I'm not going to say what one of my films is. You kind of guessed it now. But in the first film, you've got this relationship between Bucky and Captain America. What is he? Steve Rogers, that's it. Crap with names. But yeah, when Steve Rogers is this little slim guy, Bucky is the one who brings him out on double dates and involves him. Even though he's this weak guy, he loves him. They're like brothers. And Bucky always was there for him, right? So in Bucky's darkest hour, Steve's going to be there for him. This is how you fucking tell stories, people. And this is how... this is when sometimes when people say, well, the MCU is not very deep, but it is. It is. And this guy, Chris Evans, was sensational as Captain America Steve Rogers. This is why they're finding it a hell of a time to replace him. Now, I don't know who made the decision for Chris to move on, if it was Chris or if it was Kevin Feige. I don't know. I would never have moved this guy on. I think this guy would have been an amazing Superman as well, by the way, which obviously won't happen. But I think he plays the character so pure and, I just love him. I just love Chris Evans' Steve Rogers. I just think he's amazing. And this film does it. This film is about literally two friends on opposite paths. And one's trying to bring the other friend back. And then Bucky's story continues throughout the MCU. And now we're getting Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where his story is continuing as well. So, this franchise has done a lot of good things. I know doing a DCEU daily and doing this at the end and showing such love for the MCU isn't going to win me any fans. It may get me some unsubs, but I'm just being honest here, right? So this is one of my favourite MCU movies, definitely in my top 4. So that's that. And then you look at Avengers Infinity War. Avengers Infinity War is a great movie. I don't have much love or much good things to say about Endgame. I think it's good. It's got the characters together. It does what it needs to do. I think it takes some wrong turns. But this film is the fucking nuts. It really is. Basically, this is why the DCEU should have done origin movies before it done any team-ups, right? Because what happens is, like in the first Avengers movie, right? You see 4 or 5 original movies, right? They haven't met yet, but when they meet in that movie, it's one of the reasons that movie's so good and so successful. Because all those times you're watching those original movies and you're thinking, what would Stark and this character be like? What would they be like? What would Captain America and Stark be like once they meet? So you haven't seen them meet early, but once they do meet, it's so rewarding. And it's the same thing here, right? And it's the same thing with the Arrowverse crossovers as well. So finally, after all these years, all these characters are going to meet and stand together. And this film does that. And this is why it's important to take your time with these projects. And this is why Feige did the right thing here. And this is why they have success. And also going back to the Bucky actor saying how much he would do anything for Kevin Feige, It's very different, isn't it, to the parallels over at Warner Brothers and Warner Media, where actors and directors are coming out against these people because they're kind of toxic. That's not Kevin Feige. And that shows you how important Feige is. Feige is the Sir Alex Ferguson, if anyone knows who that is, the great Manchester United manager, the English soccer team, right, for you Americans. And that's what he is. What he's created is sensational. And it pisses me off hearing how great he is. It pisses me off hearing how good the MCU is, because I'm a DC fan. Look at what I'm fucking wearing. I'm not just wearing this for effect. I love DC and I love Supes. And it hurts me that we haven't got our own Kevin Feige, that we haven't done this. It's sad, but they have done it. And this film is a solidification. I can't even say the word, but it solidifies the success of this franchise, bringing all these characters and all these universes together so successfully. And this film is a celebration of Kevin Feige's achievements. This film has everything. We get to know Thanos. We get to know why he's doing what he's doing. We find out he has a relationship with Gamora and sacrificing his own daughter and things like that. It's an amazing spanning movie. So this is one of my favourite films. I think if you've never seen an MCU movie before, you could still watch this and enjoy it. Amazing. But it really is rewarding if you have seen all the previous MCU movies. But what a success story. And, you know, as I say, people watching this from the DC side of things, from the Snyderverse side of things, won't appreciate this. But I'm just being honest, as I say. So, that's free. So, Scott, the final one, you probably already know because I kind of hinted to it, is Captain America, the First Avenger. Again, this film is all about Chris Evans' brilliant depiction of this character. When he's a weakling, when he's a small guy, he's still full of courage. They really do a great job of telling Steve Rogers' origin story. And it works so much. Now, a lot of people hate this film. Marvel fans hate this film, right? A lot of them do. Not all of them, but I actually love this film. I think this is a great attempt. But in the early days, people were really critical of what Feige was doing and what they were doing. And Kevin said it himself. It was a big struggle at first, as it's been over on the dceu. The difference is, even when Disney acquired Marvel Studios, they still stuck with Feige because they knew what he was doing was going to work. And it did. And if they kept faith over at WB with Snyder, they'd be reaping the rewards now. That's the difference. That's the difference of the success, right? Snyder is a great, nice, talented guy. Feige's a great, nice, talented guy. But at the end of the day, right, if you stick to someone because if you have faith in someone, it gets rewarded. They didn't have faith in Snyder, and now they're not reaping the rewards. I don't know if their central universe ideas are going to work. It's amazing that this DCEU franchise is still limping on. After Justice League and what they do with all that situation, we will see. But this film is sensational. I could sit here all day talking about Chris Evans and the nuance in his performance, the way the film was made. This is made kind of like an old style movie that we were seeing in the early noughties, in the mid-90s. But I think that works. It is a really great introduction. And I mean, when they tell you to binge these movies, they tell you to actually watch this film first. And I might do that. I do need an MCU binge, by the way. I'm really going to lose subscribers here, and I better stop oozing about the MCU. Look, I love the DCEU. I love it. I love BVS. I love Zack Snyder's Justice League. I love Man of Steel. I love quite a few movies in that franchise, but just because we love that and just because we're DC fans, it doesn't mean we can't sit here and show a little bit of appreciation for the opposite side. Even though I hate them and they annoy me and the banter gets a bit over daunting and over, toxic sometimes. Sometimes it's good to just sit here and appreciate the opposition. And these 4 movies are the best movies for me in the franchise. Now, before I go, this is an interesting one. Are any of these films as good as Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, or Zack Snyder's Justice League? I would say that Infinity War is really the only film that measures up to any of Snyder's films, if we're honest, right? I think this is really good, and you could compare this to Zack Snyder's Justice League, say they're both really good films. But when I look at the other ones, I love these films. I've just said to you I love these films. But when I compare them, to some of the DCEU projects, especially the ones that, Snyder's 3 movies, Snyder's trilogy thus far. No, they're uncomparable. What Snyder achieved was fantastic. If Snyder was allowed to continue his vision, we would have had something a lot more special than this. I can assure you of that. So anyway, comment down below. Comment about anything we've discussed today. What's your favourite MCU movie? What's your favourite DCEU movie? Comment down below. Like, share and subscribe. Tag me, follow me, come and chat to me over on Twitter @MoviesTVMad. And I will be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.